And I guess in order to be successful in anything, it could be in talking to somebody in a social situation, or it can be securing a new business opportunity, or it could be whatever field. Like even when that guy was talking about securing a grant or whatever, why would you think of the failure before the success? And I see this with college admissions as well, honestly, with a lot of people saying, or they're just saying, oh, there's no way I'll get into this, or there's no way I'll get into that. You never know. And something that I want to touch on as well, previously even when talking to people like my dad or whoever, I've heard the phrase be realistic, but these days realism and pessimism are often conflated. Like, let's say I emailed Joe Rogan right now. This is an example that I'm using from you. Let's say I emailed Joe Rogan right now. You think it's a realistic thing that he doesn't respond, but I would say it's just pessimistic. They're realistic. You don't know what's going to happen. There's a 50-50 chance of both happening.
But
him
someone
responding
could say
and him not
that
responding.
someone could say that there's a better use of time than to email Joe Rogan. What will you get from emailing?
It doesn't take that much time.
Okay, but time is time. Why you have to have some? Again, this is realism and not pessimism. What is the chance that he's going to respond to that? And then based on that,
But you don't know. You don't know what the chance is.
Yeah, but you can't just 100% ignore. You can't. You do know the chance. You do know.
What is the chance?
The chance is very small.
How would you know that?
There's some. That's what realism is. There's some. You can't.
Yeah,
just
but I'm arguing that that's just pessimism. It's not realism.
Then what is realism? Then there's no such thing as.
There is no such thing as realism because you don't know what's going to happen.
But that's not true. We do know based on previous. That's how all humans operate. Based on previous knowledge, previous evidence. How many times has Joe Rogan responded to a fan before this?
How do you know?
What?
How do you know how many times Joe Rogan?
Okay, how many small podcasts has Joe Rogan got on?
Joe Rogan doesn't get on podcasts.
Okay, so then why would we email him to get on a podcast?
I didn't say email him to get on podcasts.
Okay, well then email him for what?
Just advice or whatever. Just email him.
Advice? I email him for advice. When there's a person that busy with he gets so many emails a day, and he's not even looking through his email. It's his manager. Why would they? This is how we operate. Logic. Okay, there's a difference between.
I think that's just a diminished view of self.
It's logic.
What's logic?
It's logic.
Logic is just manipulative.
No.
You said logic.
You can't
you're
just
calling this logic, but it's just pessimism.
You can't just ignore every.
Why not?
Every concept that humans have up until this point, because I don't know. You believe.
Why can't you ignore logic? Logic doesn't even make sense,
bro. Did you just say logic doesn't make sense?
Yeah, it doesn't.
No, logic is a concept that our humanity has been founded on for so long.
Nah, I think what we do is you
use logic in every other field. Okay, you're picking and choosing when to use it and when to not use it. Okay, during this day you 100% used logic / realism. Sometime in this day you used it.
Okay. Yeah.
So you're just picking and choosing when to use it.
I think it's just a tool that you can pick and choose whenever you want to use it.
That makes no sense.
I think in order for success in any endeavor, I think using your intuitive thought is important first, and then the logic can come second.
Okay, but 100%.
Because that's the raw thought before anything else. Because if you say, if you say I want to do this, logically, even if there's just a very small percentage of that happening, that percentage is still there. An example that I can think of, I was looking this weekend because I was talking about it with somebody. Conor McGregor was saying, in his fight with Jose Aldo way back in the day, he was saying, I'm going to knock him out with this exact shot in this exact moment. And he was saying that all before the fight. And he practiced that exact shot when he was walking out of the arena to go fight. And in that in the fight, he knocked him out exactly how he said he would, with no discrepancy in how he would do it. And you can say some person can say, "What's the there's no logic behind it.
Then
it's
this.
just a coincidence."
What's
the probability of that happening?
If you truly believe that, okay, let's use an example. Okay, believe that you'll finish your alt paper in an hour on the day before it's due, and then do it on that day.
Yeah, but then it's something that you don't it's something that you don't believe. I think, it is possible to write that many paragraphs in an hour. An hour.
Then if you stick by that principle, then do it.
Yeah, but I don't believe that I can do it.
Okay, and you believe that Joe Rogan will respond to you?
it's I think I should be able to believe it, and I should be able to believe that all paper thing as well.
Yeah. Okay.
But I think
you're not at that point yet.
Yeah, but I'm saying that it is. There's no point in not doing it or whatever.
Okay. Then there's no point. You'll save so much time. Save your
Save
alt
how
paper
much
for the
time?
last hour. Save your
Oh,
alt
the
paper.
alt paper?
Yeah. Save it
Yeah, but
for-
I'm saying how much time is it going to take for Joe Rogan to respond?
What?
Or how much time is it going to take? Is it going to take for you to write an email to Joe Rogan?
That's not what I'm talking
Less than
about.
5 minutes.
I'm saying you're saying there's no point to not believing that. Okay. There's no point with your alt paper either. You will save so much time if you write it in 1 hour. So save it for the last day, the last hour, and believe you'll do it. And if you do it, then I'll concur with you.
No, that's just logic.
If you, logic.
I'm saying
There
that's
you
just
go.
logic. That's what I'm saying. I'm saying you're using logic. You're weaponizing logic in a way that's useful to you.
No.
But I'm saying
No, it's the same principle.
intuitively, I know that intuitively, I think Joe Rogan is going to respond to me. While intuitively,
Why-
I don't think,
Intuitively, why do you think Joe Rogan is going to respond to you?
because it hasn't been proven wrong yet.
Okay, and this hasn't been proven wrong either. That you can't write a paper in an hour. Surely you wrote more in an hour.
Yeah, but people have, or I've written in an hour, but I haven't written this much or this quality in an hour before. I know I can do it, but I don't know if the time is now.
You say that again?
I haven't written that much with good quality.
Okay, and
in-
when has
in
Joe
an hour.
Rogan ever responded to a
I don't
fan?
know.
Yeah, and you don't know if you can write this much in an hour either.
Yeah, because I've written in an hour before, and it was less than this. Like
Okay.
a close reading, for example.
Okay, I know an example of a guy who contacted Joe Rogan and he didn't respond to him.
Do you know him
Yeah, I do.
personally?
Yeah, I know a guy who's done that in middle school.
Okay, but this is, if you look at the risk reward, this is low risk, high reward versus high risk, low reward for holding your alt paper back until the last day.
Okay, I mean that's the only valid point to it. But even high risk, low reward is also logic. You can't just throw it out.
Yeah, but we were talking about this the other day, where we were saying, or not we, I was saying, I think you disagreed with me on this. I was saying intuition is God-given, and it's the primary thing that you should rely on over logic and over rationality. Sometimes things just don't make sense, but they're still bound to happen anyway.
Okay.
Okay, what?
What am I supposed
Why did you disagree with that?
What?
You disagreed with that when I said it to you.
That you should rely on intuition?
No,
over-
I said in the case where your intuition defies logic and rationality, you should cast those aside and go home on your intuition instead.
I don't even think most people know what their intuition is. You know, most people aren't even connected to their intuition, or they don't know what that is. Because, again,
Let's define intuition. It's
Yeah.
not. It doesn't apply all the way. But for now, let's say the first thought that comes to your brain.
okay, the first thought that comes to a lot of people's brain is, I don't know, if you see,
I'm saying in a lot of scenarios. Not. There's obviously exceptions to this.
yeah. So then we can't apply this rule. We can't say that intuition is always best.
Yeah, but I'm saying in a lot of scenarios, intuition.
Well,
I'm
how
saying
do you know
intuition
which-
is always best, but in a lot of scenarios, it is the first thought. And how do you know that that's a whole different topic?
What?
How do you know what intuition is? But we can get into that as well. But I just want to hear your point on this first.
What? That whether, again, I would say a lot of people's intuition is just to jerk off, but they know that's not.
But
good
that's
for
not.
them.
It's not intuition.
Yeah, it is.
It's social programming.
What? No, it's not.
Yeah, it is.
100%.
We're not naturally built to jerk off.
What?
So we're not naturally built to
We're
jerk off.
naturally built to have sex.
Yeah, but it's because people didn't even know what jerking off was back in the day, or back in.
I would argue
however
that they
many times.
did. I would argue that they did.
Nah.
I think okay, you could look this up if like monkeys satisfy themselves, but I'm pretty sure you would be able to find that they do. I feel like there's just no reason that they wouldn't.
Okay.
So, and then if it feels good, your natural instinct is to do it because it feels good. That's just your programming.
Okay. Then in that case, I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
But I'm saying that is a case in which it does not apply.
We have to pick and choose where it applies and where it doesn't apply.
Exactly. You can't fall. This is what I was reading in the book.
So then what's
can't-
driving you in that case? Logic, rationale.
No.
Yeah.
How's it logic?
What? It's rationale. You know that it's bad for you in the long term. I heard someone explain that the way that your brain works is that basically there's this dude, he's a planner, okay? And he plans everything that's good for you in the long term. And then there's a toddler, and she basically, the planner, what he does is he plans what's best for you in the long term. And the toddler, what her role is to just distract you from that, okay? So your brain is basically a fight between these two characters. And when you are able to use that planner over and over and over again, then it builds a pathway to that same thing. So let's say you're trying to read 30 minutes a day. And the more that planner has control, the easier it will be in the future, because every time you do that, you build like a pathway. So like first it starts off as just imagine you're here and reading 30 minutes a day is at point B. You're at point A, reading 30 minutes a day is at point B. And you clear the grass the first time you do it. The second time you do it, you build a trail. And the third time you do it, you build a pathway. The fourth time you do it, you smooth out that pathway. Okay, I'm just making this up. It's not obviously from the fourth time you do it. But someone used this analogy. This is how they describe the brain. There's these two characters. And what that toddler will do is she'll destroy the pathway.
Okay. I think you're conflating impulse with
Well,
intuition here.
That's the two things going on in your brain.
I think
is what I've heard.
No, I think if somebody's mindful of their own thoughts, and mindful as in they're present as well, I don't think that toddler part necessarily applies.
Yeah, and well, that's the whole point. There's ways to make sure that the toddler part isn't working and that the planner is working, but the toddler is also there.
No, but I'm saying the
maybe
toddler,
it's dormant.
The toddler doesn't have, not all kid is just a jerk that just destroys everything.
Bro,
I'm saying,
it's an analogy.
I'm saying,
It's an
I know,
analogy.
I'm saying, taking that analogy further, I'm saying you can refine what type of toddler
It's
is in your
always
brain.
dormant.
And your impulse can be
Okay.
converted to something
This
good.
analogy,
Because
you can't just change this analogy.
after a certain time last year, Malo, we've never had the impulse to jerk off, or at least I haven't. I've had it once, one single time, and that's it. And I'm saying it's not the planner in me that's working that out. I just never have had the impulse to do it again.
Yeah, but see, it's dormant. You still had that.
I didn't have it.
You had the impulse.
I didn't have the impulse. One impulse, yeah.
That's the toddler.
But that
that's
was
dormant.
just input. That was just input.
What input?
Like a bad input. Maybe on Instagram or something. I don't
Yeah.
know specifically.
But that's what the toddler responds to.
What?
That kind of input. It's always there. It's dormant. If that toddler wasn't there, then even if you saw a bad input, you'd be like, okay, I know this is bad for me. I don't have this impulse, and it goes rid of. But it's always there.
I don't think so.
There's different things that it responds
Okay,
to.
well, my first thought whenever I see something.
I mean,
isn't to
I'm
jerk
pretty
off
sure this
anymore.
analogy was made by a brain scientist or something. So you can say you don't think so, but I'm pretty sure there's two sections of the brain. Maybe there are larger sections, but there's ways in which they work. So that's how it works. So that's how that analogy works, because they've studied the brain, and then there are sections of the brain that act in this way.
Okay, maybe.
Yeah.
Well, we haven't understood the brain completely yet.
Yeah, but I think as far as we know, this is what they've studied.
Okay. Okay, then my theory that I have, you can call this
Alright.
you can call this true.
Theory.
Is I think
No, I'm not calling this true. I'm calling it theory. Bro said you could call this true.
No, but I think that there is a third thing that exists beyond the toddler and the planner.
Okay.
That we don't, it's something God-given almost,
Yeah.
if you can even put
sure,
it that way.
Sure.
And they call it the self, or the consciousness.
Who
or
calls it
whatever.
the self?
They meaning, I don't know, religious text, really wise people, etc. But I think that maybe that is able to keep the toddler dormant and the planner active. But I don't think the planner would necessarily have to be good in all scenarios either. Because let's say, okay, when I applied to Singapore, for example, the acceptance rate is very low. It's like 5%.
can.
But then, or something like that. Whatever. It doesn't matter. It's a
Yeah.
low acceptance rate. The planner in me is obviously going to be like, this acceptance rate is very low. I might as well save the time that I have from this application. But that doesn't necessarily have to be the case. Intuitively, I know that I'll get into that school.
Well, that's also the planner because you know that again, high risk, low risk, high reward.
I don't think so.
What is the risk to applying to Singapore, other than maybe the 20 Singapore dollars that you lose?
Yeah, I mean, there's no risk, but I'm saying
I think
that
that's all
part of
that
my
is.
brain is not determined by logic.
I think that's all it is.
What about anybody that takes any risk?
I believe what you're saying about intuition does exist, and it's because I've read about it in religious texts. But I think right now, at this point in humanity, we have very low connection with that self, especially because our lives are so busy. You know, how many hours do you see someone meditating these days? Back in those days, you had so much connection to yourself because people spent hours meditating, hours just doing nothing, just thinking. So they were more connected to that self.
Yeah.
What'd you laugh at?
I was just thinking about how I said I said you can call this true.
You can call this true. It's theory. You can call this true.
Yeah, but I agree. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. And I don't know. I guess the way that in which you would understand, as I was saying, I said mindfulness. You said meditation.
Yeah.
They could be one and the same. Because if you're mindful of your thoughts, yeah, okay. This is what I was saying with the theory that is also true.
Bro, stop.
This is what I was saying with
You
that.
can call this true or false.
No, but
Bad joke.
that's pretty bad. But the mindfulness essentially is realizing that you're not your thoughts, that your thoughts come and go, but there's something eternal that stays within you. If you ever meditated for a decent amount of time, you would understand this feeling. Like even the viewer at home, just go stare at your wall for an hour. You start realizing that there's something inside of you that's not the product of your thoughts.
Bro, you sound like crazy. This is out there. This is so out there.
But that's what meditation is. It's you seeing your thought and then discarding it. Because the ultimate state of meditation is what? It's thinking nothing, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is very basic.
Mm-hmm.
The ultimate state of meditation is thinking nothing, which means that whenever a thought enters your brain, you see the thought and then you discard the thought. You don't indulge in that thought. Anybody who's ever done 10 minutes of meditation can at least attribute to what I'm saying.
Let me think. I feel like what I usually do during my meditations is mantra meditation, and I'm reciting this mantra over and over again. And the more I focus on the pronunciation of the mantra, the more I forget everything else.
Yeah, but you're focusing on one thing, and then you're discarding all your thoughts.
Yeah, so I'm directing my focus towards that one thing, and then in that case, then I don't have any more energy to focus on anything else.
Okay, that makes sense.
That's how I've
you
always
think
thought
of it.
about it. Yeah.
What I've always thought about it as is just you. I guess it's the same principle.
I don't know
in
anyone that
essence.
meditates and thinks nothing. I think that's truly a higher state of meditation.
Yeah, nobody thinks nothing,
Yeah.
but that's the goal.
Yeah.
Is at least that's what I feel.
I feel like that might be one of the highest points you get to in terms of meditation.
Yeah, of course it is.
Maybe.
Well, it's not something that your average Joe could do.
Yeah.
So-
Yeah.
But that's what you're training your brain to do. It's like not everybody starts out looking really swole. Some people do,
So
but a lot of
then
people a lot of people have to work there. And it's like every time, at least in the way that I've heard it before described by other people, the way that I see it, it's like you take a bicep or a dumbbell and you do a bicep curl. And every time a thought enters your brain and you recognize that thought and you throw away that thought. A thought, okay, if you're thinking about the mantra and some other thought enters your brain and then you discard that thought and put more focus into the mantra, it's the same thing. That's what I'm saying. When you see a thought and you discard that thought, it's like doing a bicep curl for your brain or for your your soul.
If you
almost.
think about it in this way, then how do you get to the point where you have no thoughts? Because then what happens to your energy or your focus? How do you just get rid of that? I feel like what I'm doing is I'm just directing all that energy towards one thing. But what do you do to get no thoughts? Like, what do you do with that energy? Can you just get rid of it?
I'm not at that stage yet.
Yeah.
But
This is also out there.
it's not out there.
It's out
Everyone
there.
that's done a
Bro,
meditation
all
knows.
this is out there. How many people meditate?
Okay, it doesn't matter, man. Let's just talk about what we're interested in.
Yeah.
All right.
All right.
For now, we can talk about other.
But then we're gonna get no audience, bro.
We can talk about more beginner-friendly topics later on. It doesn't matter.
I don't know. All right, sure.
So, what was I saying? Oh yeah. So I'm saying, your intuition is a tool that can be trained.
Mm-hmm.
When we're talking
from here,
What? Talk again.
can it pick up from here?
It's really quiet. Just why can't you? Well, I mean, what's the struggle in doing this?
Oh, it's awkward, man.
It's not that awkward. Just
I have
hold
to
it like
I have
this.
to turn towards you like this.
I'm not turning that much. Just a little bit.
All right.
But in regards to what we're talking about with intuition before, all I'm saying is that whenever you are connected to your intuition, I was saying mindfulness is kind of like the key to opening the lock. That is yourself. Once you understand that, and you were saying it's a higher state, which it is. Yeah, it's true. I mean, these days, what we think is our intuition, which is actually our impulse, it's not 100% perfect, obviously.
Okay, so what's the difference between impulse and intuition then?
I guess impulse is just the first thing.
Biological,
Yeah, biological.
and intuition is
Something else. Higher.
higher than yourself, higher than your body,
Yeah.
like from your soul,
Sure.
your conscious.
Yeah, I wouldn't even say that's that out there. I feel like my 10th grade self would have kind of understood that.
Yeah.
Maybe not the detour that we took with meditation,
Yeah.
but they would have, that point is hammered home. But in terms of success in the world, I think it's important to exercise that capability and to take that risk
Intuition.
with the intent. Oh yeah, take a risk that you intuitively know is going to bring you a better opportunity.
I think one of the things that they were saying, the speakers, was the pattern I picked amongst all of them was just do something, just try something, because the only way, it sounds so cliche if you say it, but if you think about this logically, the only way that you're going to get somewhere is if you try something. Because if you don't try it, then you're going to be stuck in the same spot that you were.
I agree. That's
Yeah,
why
you're
you should
in.
let me do more sales pitches.
Do that on your, like, practice that with your dad or something.
No, not with my dad. Maybe I'll call
Not with the
someone.
high
I'll
stakes.
just call
Not in the high
Joe
stakes
Rogan or
scenario.
something. I'll call Joe Rogan and I'll ask him.
All right, do that based on your intuition. But yeah, that's the pattern I picked amongst all of them. Just do something, just try something. And even if you think that something bad could happen, if you don't even take that risk in the first place, then you're just going to be stuck in the same place. And I don't think there's anything worse than that. I would rather try something, and even if it goes wrong, I can say at least I've tried, rather than do nothing and just stay in the same spot forever.
Yeah, but also even you don't even have to say at least I tried. You can take the attempt at what you
sure,
did.
but even that is like, okay, for someone whose confidence is at a low, right? This is what I would say. And they talked about this too, just be more confident. That was the advice that Joe Buck gave to his 15-year-old self in high school, or however old in high school. But to someone who's at an all-time low in confidence, and they found themselves in the same place for so long because they haven't tried anything, just do something. Because if you don't do anything, you're going to be in the same position unless you change something. And I think there's nothing worse than that. I would rather go wrong than stay in the same place.
Yeah, for sure. I mean that's kind of what we did with this podcast.
Yeah.
We just started it,
Yeah.
and it's the success.
Is that a
still
hard
to come.
short? Is that a hard short?
What?
Was that a hard short?
Yeah, sure. You said something else earlier which I liked.
Yeah.
Well, I'll look through and I'll find it.
Yeah.
But yeah. Ultimately, I agree with that.
Yeah.
And then, but
I'm
then you
trying
can
to speak
also,
like Alex Hormozy.
Sure.
Like not too loud, but like.
yeah, sure. You could also argue that the ration it's not logical for you to succeed. That's what a lot of people would say. Oh, okay. Maybe the thing when I was poking at realism, what I was getting at is a lot of people tell you it's not possible for you to succeed because the podcast industry is such a bloated space.
Yeah.
How can one out of millions of podcasts even succeed?
Yeah, I think then that's something higher than you. That's telling you why does
Pick and choose.
why does every person in the world think they can succeed and think they can make it? If we only operate on logic, then the vast majority of people would think that they're absolute bums. They have no hope for themselves. If a computer program were to analyze someone's life and they would say, okay, this person, like, let's say they go to a drug addict and they analyze their life and they say, okay, based on his previous actions, whatever he's done in the past, evidence, this person is going to live a miserable life. There's no point to him even living. He should kill himself. Okay.
All right.
A unbiased computer program, that's what it would say. With that drug addict, he still has hope for himself.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Where does that come from? Where does that hope come from? And I think that comes from something higher than what we can perceive. The way that every single human has that's something unique to us.
But do they have hope?
And it's not based on logic.
There are people that do just off themselves when they have no hope.
Yeah, but what percent? The number of drug addicts who are living versus the number of drug addicts who committed suicide is so much higher.
That's true. And you know that redemption is possible because you look at people like Robert Downey Jr.
Yeah.
20 years ago.
Even that's like evidence, though. I'm saying there are drug addicts who genuinely, they haven't seen anyone who's made a recovery. Let's say your whole community is messed. There are some communities like that that are so bad. They don't know anyone that's made it out of their community. But they're still living their lives. They haven't killed themselves yet. This is so dark, but I think that hope comes from something else. And this is not something uncommon. We talk about hope so much like this that it's something uniquely human. And I think uniquely human is just another way of saying it comes from something higher than us.
Something that we can't perceive yet. Okay.
It abides by no logic, whatever you want to call it, rational reasoning. So
is that something that's intuitive then?
Yeah, I don't know if it's intuitive. I feel like we just haven't defined intuition.
Okay. Let's ascribe intuition to that.
Okay. I don't know. Intuition is just, for me, what intuition means is just without rationale. Without logic.
Okay, sure.
But your impulses are also without rationale.
That's not true.
Yeah.
The rationale is just it feels good.
But you could rationale something better.
What's better?
No. Yeah, you could. Okay. You could reason out that I think it's when you're not thinking. All right, let me rephrase it. Intuition is when you're not thinking. No, that's not a bad way to say it.
Okay, how about we say we don't know what intuition yet?
Look up what intuition is.
Nah, intuitively I know that it's the correct, or the definition we're looking for is not going to be on there.
This has just become about semantics at this point.
What do you mean by semantics?
We're just talking about the meaning of the word rather than the idea it embodies.
The ability to understand something immediately without the need for conscious reasoning.
Conscious reasoning.
Yeah, a thing that one knows or considers likely from indicative feeling rather than conscious reasoning.
Mm.
They even call it our sixth sense.
Mm.
It's not something tangible.
Yeah. Okay, so if we return to the example.
Yeah, and okay, then I'm saying impulses are something that's driven by conscious reasoning.
Yeah.
Like you want to jerk off or something. That's an ability, or that's something that you get from conscious reasoning because it feels good. That's the rationale that you give it. But then your intuition is
But you aren't
beyond
able
that.
to reason farther than that.
Yeah.
You just stop your thinking at that point.
Yeah.
So that's just something completely different.
Well,
It's
I'm
the
just saying,
toddler. It's the toddler.
the toddler, sure. But okay. So then, in the instance, my theory, which is true, is saying that there's something that exists beyond the toddler and the planner, and that's what we call intuition.
Okay. Yeah. Sure. I concede.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I thought. It's truth.
You didn't
The
explain
truth.
it as well before.
The truth.
And then.
Well, I also arrived at that understanding.
And then.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. And then if we're done arguing about what intuition is, we can talk about how we can leverage it. Actually, a question that I wanted to ask is, you were talking about the starting this podcast, for example, and succeeding in the podcast space, and you know that we have that hope or that intuition. What's the difference between that and Joe Rogan, emailing Joe Rogan?
This and emailing Joe Rogan?
Yeah.
Because I know that this podcast, if we do it consistently, if we make content consistently, it's been proven in the past that you can succeed.
Yeah, but then
I don't
there's
know
also
a single person who's emailed Joe Rogan and Joe Rogan's got back to them.
Yeah, but you also don't know people who have also tried.
You can't tell me that you genuinely believe Joe Rogan's going to respond to your email.
I kind of do. I feel like he will.
No, you're saying that. You're saying that to program yourself, and I get that. That's valid. But really, what do you really believe?
That he's gonna email me back.
No, you don't.
I do.
Don't lie to yourself.
I'm not lying.
You're lying. Okay, it's not even lying. I get it, bro. Like, you want positive programming. But in this moment, it's already passed. We're not emailing Joe Rogan anymore.
Okay. Yeah, okay.
Let's use this time to address, do you really believe that Joe Rogan will email you back?
Yeah.
No. You don't.
You don't. I do.
You don't.
I think he will.
Okay. Why would he email you back?
There's no reasoning to explain it.
He
just will.
You
will
believe
email
that
me.
He'll email you back?
Yeah.
I think there's few things. Let me put this back. I think there's few things that we genuinely draw from intuition. And those things are aspects such as your life overall, you know? But smaller things, I don't think many people have that kind of contact or with their intuition, or that kind of connection with their intuition.
I don't know. I feel like it's a muscle that can be trained, and I feel like it's a muscle that should be trained, and we should spread that knowledge out there. Because, I mean, I've been talking about Conor McGregor for a lot, but he's also one of my favorite athletes of all time. And I find a lot of inspiration in what he's saying. But even before Conor McGregor was the guy that he is now, he literally envisioned in his car, sitting in his car, he envisioned that when he would pull up to the shopping mall, the first car park space would be available for him. And he just trained that brain for that feeling. And he said when he was a child, he'd practice scoring goals in his backyard. And he'd practice running off to all the crowd just cheering him on and stuff. And he said that exact feeling was replicated when he was the UFC star. And he's saying that he was training his brain to kind of embrace that feeling or understand that feeling. And he's saying that envisioning himself in these scenarios is something that's... And he was saying he was doing it to smaller things as well, like that car park space.
Yeah. If you can do it... Then
I remember the other example that I was thinking about. He was holding his little broken down second generation car, and he was imagining that it was a Lambo.
Yeah. If you can do it, then do it. But don't lie to yourself. Like, I do not believe that you genuinely envision Joe Rogan responding back to us.
I think so. I can envision it.
You can envision it. You can imagine it. But imagine is not the same as envision it. I understand what Conor McGregor is saying. I've had that many, many times where I've envisioned something happening and then it happens. And sure, that comes from whatever we're talking about that's higher than us. But if you can't do it, there's no point in lying to yourself and saying, "Oh, I can do
Yeah,
this."
but how do you know if you can do it or you can't do it without trying?
What?
So how do you know?
You can try, and then you try envisioning yourself. Try envisioning Joe Rogan responding back to you. Have you really envisioned it, or have you not? If you haven't envisioned it, then you haven't. It's a muscle, sure. You haven't trained that muscle well enough yet. It's like it's like trying to deadlift. I don't know. Let's say you
Deadlift 400 pounds your first time.
Yeah, it's like trying to. If you've deadlifted, here, let me come up with a good analogy.
You can't. Okay, I get what you're trying to say. You can't deadlift 400 pounds the first time you go to the gym unless you're super gifted.
Yeah,
you have to build your way up there. You have to build your way up
there. Yeah. So I'm saying this.
Envision it with smaller.
Envisioning tactic is the same thing. It takes practice, and yeah, it takes practice. But try it with smaller things first, and then you can maybe.
Well, like a dad giving you a chocolate.
Something like that, and then maybe you'll be able to do that larger thing.
Yeah. Oh, or Conor McGregor in the car park space.
Yeah.
And then he was able to do that larger thing where he became the most successful, highest paid athlete ever.
Yeah. I just think. Okay, here's a better analogy. What is a better use of your time if you are new in the gym?
Whoa. Stop talking. You messed up your mic somehow.
Oh, it's on mute. How long has it been on mute?
A decent amount.
Like, decent means how long?
Oh, I don't want to stop the recording because it'll make the editing job harder. Yeah. But let's just say it's been...
Okay, we'll just put the phone audio for that time. It's fine.
Yeah, okay. That's fine.
Yeah. Are we good now?
Yeah, we're fine.
Okay. It's like... What is a better use of your time in the gym if you're a beginner? Trying to lift 400 pounds or working your way up to it by trying to lift 100 pounds, deadlift 100 pounds? You're going to get... I mean, sure, you can pull on the 400 pounds as hard as you want, but it won't train any muscles. I mean, I guess that's arguable. It does.
Isometric strength.
You have some tension in there, but it won't be as useful as when you lift that 100 pounds up and then you put it back down. Now you've done a deadlift, and now you know what it feels like. And then next time you increase that weight and you do it again and you do it again until you build up to that 400 pounds. So I think there's no point in lying to yourself and saying, I believe Joe Rogan will email me back, if you really don't believe that.
Yeah, but I do believe it. I do believe that Joe Rogan's going to email me back.
Then it should have happened.
Yeah, but I didn't email him.
Okay, email him. If you really believe it, it'll happen. And then that's how I'll know if you're lying or not.
Okay.
All right.
I'll take care. I'll do that.
All right.
But then, I don't know, what else do we want to touch on? Is that, I mean, a lot of people use that tactic. A lot of successful people.
Yeah.
I know people in MMA that do it specifically.
Mm-hmm.
Like McGregor did it, and so did Jones, etc.
Yeah.
But I think it's an important thing to do in general.
Mm-hmm. Because
why would you train your brain? It's like what we were talking about, training your brain. I was saying meditation is like a bicep curl for your brain. And every time you understand that you're distracted and you have to go back to a non-distracted state. That's like a bicep curl for your brain. But also imagining 100% positive thing or envisioning 100% positive thing, I think that's also a bicep curl for your brain. Or maybe it's not instead of a bicep curl, it's like a tricep extension or whatever.
What?
A skull crusher. It's a different exercise that leads to muscle growth. But it's a different exercise for a different part of your brain. But you're training your brain to see yourself in a successful light.
Yeah.
To see yourself, in Conor McGregor's case, as a UFC champion. The first Irish man to ever do this. And the first man in history to ever become a double champion.
Yeah.
You train your brain to say that you are the kind of person who can accomplish what no man in history has done before.
Yeah. I agree, but I'd say try it with smaller things first.
Yeah.
And it's a better use of your time.
Then you start your brain starts thinking, oh, I can actually, I have a lot more power than I realize.
Yeah.
And then I guess this is a way out there thing with the people that will get it. We were talking about the double slit experiment, and I went back and looked at it, and the thing was they were just measuring photons, But they measured it in a particle structure and they measured it in a wave structure, and they didn't do anything to it.
Yeah.
But
And that's why we know that
it
light
changed.
is both particles and waves.
Yeah, but the pattern changed.
Yeah, obviously
The pattern
particles
projected
won't.
change dependent on how you measured it, but it was the same particles.
Yeah.
And we didn't add or take away anything.
Well, light is both particles and waves.
Yeah, light is both particles and waves.
Yeah.
But it changes depending on how you measure it. And I think that's the same for reality in general.
That's quite the conclusion. And someone could definitely disprove that.
It's not about proof.
Disprove it meaning someone could you can't make that connection.
Okay, someone will say
scientifically you can't make
I'm just sharing my perspective.
Scientifically you can't make that connection.
And the people that will I'm just sharing my opinion. All right,
You're making a connection.
I'm making a connection to my opinion, which doesn't necessarily
to your intuition.
My intuition, yes. But the double.
You think it works the same way?
I think it works the same way. I think whatever you observe reality as, that's what becomes your reality.
Yeah.
Whenever you think in a negative way, you'll attract negative things. If you think, oh, I'm not going to perform well in track, or I'm not going to perform well in this 400-meter run, you're not going to perform well, or you're not going to perform up to your standards. What?
Look, I got my mic to stand. I don't have to hold it anymore.
Wow, very cool.
Is it going to fall?
Yes. I intuitively believe that it's going to fall.
All right, shut up.
You're making the same joke, and I was giving you pity laughs.
No. Don't give me pity laughs for a joke like that.
Fine. I won't. But, yeah. When you... The reality thing, all I'm saying is that if you envision a negative thing, or you train your brain to think in a negative light, negative things will end up happening. If you... In the example that I gave was a track example, where I was saying, if you constantly think, I'm going to perform bad, you will perform bad. But if you constantly think, I'm going to perform well, you'll perform well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Reality is what you make of it.
Yeah. I agree.
I think that's a pretty good note to end the episode on. But I don't know if you want to continue.
Yeah.
Or I don't know if
Remember,
you have anything to add.
when I read The Go-Giver, the guy was saying, so just for context for the book, it was about a guy. He was just a worker, really, and he was struggling because he's a salesman. He's trying to close some big sales by the end of the quarter. His job depends on it, that kind of thing. And he's getting advice from these 5 guys that are supposedly, they're very successful people. The 5 guys are very successful people, and they all teach this guy one principle. And
Sorry, I'm just laughing at... And then... My bad, I wasn't present. Let me discard that thought. Do a bicep curl from my brain real quick. But what? Yeah.
And the guy was saying, if you believe the world to be a dog-eat-dog world... Because he was saying...
Oh, yeah.
He was saying it's a dog-eat-dog world. What you know? He was saying, if you believe the world to be a dog-eat-dog world, then that's how it's going to present itself to you. But if you don't, then you're not going to experience that. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
I understand.
Yeah.
Phenomenal.
Yeah. Indeed.
I think that's where we should end the episode.
Yeah.
As well.
How many minutes are we at?
A lot.
Actually?
No, I don't know.
Feels short.
It's definitely more than 45 minutes.
Okay. That's good then.
Good afternoon.
Yeah.